this guy at my fly shop named Cliff, and Cliff is this old man. He's an employee there. He's this old man who kind of has a bad back, and he kind of just like waddles around all over the place in the fly shop. And every time I come into the fly shop, he'll come over and he'll ask, is there anything I can help you with? And of course, I've been fly fishing for like 4 years now, but I still consider myself a rookie. And so, of course, every time he's like, is there anything I can help you with? I'm like, yes. And I unload my questions on this guy. I mean, I ask him everything I could possibly think of because he has a wealth of knowledge that he's built up over decades about fly fishing. I would be stupid to not pick his brain and learn as much as I possibly can from him. And what's awesome about Cliff is not only does he have the knowledge, but he cares enough to actually take some time out of his day to stop what he's doing and help you. I mean, I asked him what the good spots in Louisville are, and he stopped and pulled up a map and showed me exactly where to go. And lo and behold, those spots are solid. He's willing to teach you how to tie flies. He's willing to teach you different techniques. And he'll teach you whatever you want to know. In fly fishing, it's one of those sports that's kind of passed along from person to person, much like the Christian faith. But it's passed along from person to person. And yes, we have Google and YouTube that can teach us a lot about fly fishing, but it's one of those sports that, one, you need practice, but two, you almost need somebody who knows what they're doing, who can kind of guide you along the process and teach you and help you grow. And when I think about Cliff and the wealth of knowledge that he's passed on to me and the wealth of knowledge that he's passed on to so many others, I can't help but to think about the different people who have mentored me in my own faith. Like, I've always said I would not be here today if it wasn't for the people of the church that I'm at who have poured into me over decades. I would not be here today if it wasn't for them. And that's how the Christian faith is. It's been passed on from generation to generation to generation. Most Christians, if you talk to them and say, like, what got you into Christianity, what brought you to Jesus, it's usually somebody cared enough to sit down and walk them through it and teach them. And when I think about all this, I'm reminded of Paul and Timothy. And if you don't know, Paul and Timothy had a really cool relationship. And not only is it just a really cool and like a beautiful relationship, it's something that like Christians, we should take note of and we should apply to our own lives. Because the simple fact of the matter, you probably have young people in your church and young people around you in your life that you could mentor and disciple into Christ. But here's some things about the relationship between Paul and Timothy. For one, Paul and Timothy met in Acts 16. Timothy was spoken very highly of. But Paul meets Timothy and he's like, you're going to come work with me. I'm going to teach you everything I know. I'm going to teach you how to preach and how to pastor the church. I'm going to teach you how to lead and all this different stuff. But they met in Acts 16 and Paul teaches Timothy how to preach. He teaches him how to lead the church. We see this in 1 Timothy 4, verses 12 through 16. So he's actively teaching Timothy. Paul encourages Timothy. In 1 Timothy 4:12, we see that Paul encourages Timothy to be bold despite his youth. It seems that Timothy may have felt insecure because he was younger, but Paul tells him, don't be insecure. Don't let other people look down on you because of you're young, but set an example. Set an example. So you have Paul teaching Timothy. You have Paul encouraging Timothy. You have this really cool portion of text in 1 Timothy 5 where Paul is looking out for the well-being, the general well-being of Timothy. It seems that Timothy got sick easily. It seems that he had stomach issues. And so Paul's advice in 1 Timothy 5 is to drink a little bit of wine and don't just drink water so that your stomach doesn't have issues while you're on the road. And so we have this portion of text where Paul is taking care of Timothy. He's just taking care of him in his general well-being. We see that Paul pushes Timothy to endure through hardships and the struggles that he's definitely going to face at some point. You see that Paul loved Timothy dearly to the point where Paul even refers to Timothy as a son. And so Paul and Timothy had this really cool relationship, almost like a coach and a player. Like you think of like a really good coach, somebody who cares about his kids, his players and the people working under him. They genuinely care. It's almost like that. Because Paul's teaching Timothy, he's encouraging him, but he's also not coddling him. He's also not doing everything for him. You're gonna be facing some hardships on the road. You're gonna be doing some of these really difficult things. And so this relationship. It's something that we should all be applying to our own lives, because I can think of many. I am a youth minister, but I can think of many different young college age, high school age kids who I can disciple and who I can mentor to be the next leaders of the church, the next generation of the church. And we should all be doing that. But for some reason, I see a trend where that just doesn't happen. I know at our church there was this issue that we had where students would go through youth group and then they'd graduate youth group and they wouldn't feel welcome at the rest of the church. It's like they didn't have a place. They didn't belong anywhere. And I looked at this for a long time, like, I don't know what the deal is. And I began not just mentoring my students through high school, but after high school too. And I started walking with my students who are now in college age and walking through them and helping them connect with the rest of the church and giving them a place where they can be themselves in just this weird transition period. And it's something that's so awesome to see, because I've seen students who have now gone from building their own faith for the first time to now not just being a part of the adult church, but serving the adult church. And it's a beautiful thing. But so often we pass it up. And we say, we don't need, that's not my job. That's somebody else's job. Pause. That's your job. Not only is it your job, it's your joy. That's a beautiful thing. And it's something that you can find a lot of joy in. So I want you to think about your own church. Wherever you are out there, I want you to think about your own church. Are there people in your church who you can take under your wing and love and encourage and care for and teach? Is there somebody like that who you can mentor? And if there is, then actually take the step of mentoring them and discipling them, and then just be amazed at what God is doing in their lives. That's my challenge to you. I'll see you next time. Tight lines.